DNF'd a book at 60%, but this is the book. How to Get a Girlfriend When You're a Terrifying Monster by Marie Cardno. So, because the book was a little boring, I really don't remember much of it. But let's get into it. I do remember how the book starts. So the book starts with Trillian and how she has been seeing a human coming in and out of a portal, and how she is in love with this human. Like, she wants this human to be her girlfriend. She ends up developing her body because she's like an eldritch kind of monster with tentacles and a million eyes. She starts developing her body into a human body, but she doesn't really look human. So when the human comes back, whose name is Cyan, I hope her name is Cyan. If am I pronouncing it wrong? Could you guys please correct me in the comments? But apparently it turns out that Cyan is some kind of scientist, and she comes in and out of the portal to see what they can learn from this other world, because supposedly this other world's going to destroy theirs. I really do like that there is magic within the sci-fi story, so that's pretty cool. What I really would have liked is a little bit of background on the magic, and a little more information about the areas that the characters are in. So after Cyan comes through the portal once again, she sees Trillian, and she tries to make small talk with Trillian, but Trillian's like not really talking. And she's like, okay, cool, and like in her head, she's like, you're gorgeous. Wow, I'm attracted to you. And then we find out that Cyan actually herself is really attracted too. And then she's like, okay, gotta go, bye. And then she ends up jumping into the Endless and being attacked by a monster. And we get a few pages of her fighting a monster and trying to protect these bunny-like things. And then Trillian comes and saves her, and then, well, accidentally merges herself with the monster and goes kind of crazy. And then when she realizes that it's Cyan, she kind of rips herself out of the monster, or becomes herself again. And then they have a really long chat. And I don't know at this point if they are walking or not, because during their talk, we're not given any information about the environment they're in. One part where the Endless ends up coming for Trillian and Cyan, and something's happening. I don't really remember. And all of a sudden, Cyan starts thinking about a poem, which really came out of the blue. And I was like, what the heck is this? Why is she doing poetry? We have no indication that Cyan's actually into poetry. So the poem coming out of nowhere was just like, what's going on? Kind of cringe. What's going on? Then after that, somehow Trillian's no longer there, and Cyan's in the other world, back in her world, and we meet a character named Jonesy, and I was like, okay. And Jonesy was taking her somewhere, but there was like no description of what was actually happening behind her as a character. Like in a movie, we see, oh, they're going down the hall, we see how the hall looks, we see people walking by, we see the environment in the world building. We didn't really have that in this story. Like, Jonesy was taking her somewhere, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of boring, I'm going to stop here. So I DNF'd it at 60%. Do I have any idea why they were actually researching Trillian's world? No. Maybe they gave some information later in the book, but I DNF'd it, so I'll never know. The thing I did not like about the story was that there was the insta-love, because Trillian and Cyan were really overprotective of each other, and they barely knew each other. They probably just met 5 minutes ago, and already they're like giving up their lives to protect one another. I understand that there's not going to be that much character depth in a short story, but some novellas that I've read have managed to put character depth in about 100 pages or so. The writing was kind of confusing, because we'll be with scenes with Cyan, and then it'll jump to another scene, but it won't say who it is until after a few paragraphs, and you're like, wait, wasn't Cyan just fighting? Why is it talking about this? And then it'll say Trillian, and you're like, oh, so we're back with Trillian now. So the writing was a tad bit confusing. There was not that much world building. We didn't get any information on why they were researching the other world, or how Trillian came to be, or the magic. We didn't get any information about the magic. Cyan would talk about her magic, and yet that was it. We didn't get any information of where it came from. Was she born with it? Did she study it? Is she a witch? Is she part of this magical society? And all of a sudden, this scientific world came out of nowhere. We didn't get any of that. I had a DNF it, unfortunately. I am not going to rate this book because I DNF'd it. Now, just because I DNF'd the book doesn't mean I'm not going to support indie authors. If you guys are interested in an eldritch kind of monster falling in love with a human with sci-fi elements and magical elements, then this book is for you. I will put the links down below so you guys could check out the author and her books and see where you guys could actually get it. But for me, this was a hard DNF. Yeah. So I guess I will talk to you guys later and see you next week. Bye.